What's cracking, everybody? XehrFelrose here, bringing you some Pokemon Go Battle League content. Today's video, we're going to be taking a look at a strong team in the Great League, as we have Great League for another week. Thank goodness. Hopefully you enjoy it more than Little Jungle Cup. Anyway, we're going to be taking a look at a team featuring Guzzlord, but honestly, the star of the show might just be at the bottom of this little overlay here. But the reason why we picked Guzzlord to start with is because it's core breaking a ton of teams in the Great League right now. Lots of trainers playing things like Talonflame and Superior, more Pekos every once in a while. So there's a lot of teams that are very uncomfortable against an opposing dragon, especially Guzzlord. We're going to be coring it with a Clodsire. Personally, I was very meh on the Clodsire pick. I think that there could be a better poison type to pick from, but I went ahead with Clodsire just because it's something I haven't used in a while. Makes sense to use it. It actually works very well with this team in general. And we did pick Sludge Bomb as the move of choice here over Stone Edge because we want to have that extra oomph against fairy types and other things that, things like Jump Pluff as well. Sludge Bomb being same type attack bonus as well, or stab, also helps dealing with those things. And in the back, to pull it all together, we've got a Shadow Drapion that is probably by far one of the best safe switches. And honestly, if Guzzlord wasn't the feature, I'd be featuring Shadow Drapion. And I haven't made a thumbnail yet, but you'll find out which one I thought was more worth it by the time you click on this video. Drapion is so freaking good. It's ridiculous. Let's get into the battles here, and we're just going to see this team in action. I think I had at least 4 or 5 games on the days that I played this team where Drapion just mowed through almost the entire team all by itself. But this is exactly what I'm talking about. In this first game, we have a Talonflame in the lead, and the opponent safe switches into a Mandibuzz here, which, I mean, look, I'm telling y'all, this is just how Guzzlord does in this Great League. It's able to just be strong against teams and put them in really uncomfortable spots. I have a lot of play here, and my Drapion can come in and start flinging off Aqua Tails. And also, because it's only 4 Poison Stings to an Aqua Tail, I can always make sure that if I time my moves correctly, I can pretty much always have an Aqua Tail ready to go for whenever the Talonflame may decide to come back in. So 2 Aqua Tails is pretty much enough to get the knockout here, and I can live 2 Aerial Aces very comfortably here. Just need to keep track of my opponent's energy. Make sure that they don't get to 2 moves here. So we're going to go for the Aqua Tail. I was considering a shield and farm down, but at that point, I think I would rather just get rid of this Pokemon, save my shield for later. So opponent's going to come in with the Talonflame here, and I'm going to be able to fire off an Aqua Tail, and it looks like I should hopefully be able to get to a second one if I can fire it off. The opponent shields up the first one, knowing that it's, but we're not going to make it, knowing that it's going to do super effective damage, but Guzzlord gets to come back in and shield up this potential Brave Bird. And if it's not a Brave Bird, then we can start applying even more damage. But the opponent does Brave Bird here, and then they have a Superior. The whole team, triple weak to Guzzy Wuzzy. I love my wife's over in the corner laughing at me for Guzzy Wuzzy, man. That's how you know you've made it. When you make a stupid nickname for Pokemon like Guzzy Wuzzy and you... Guzzy Wuzzy was a bear. Guzzy Wuzzy had no hair. Anyway, if y'all remember that, let me know. That man. Anyway, Superior uses Aerial Ace here because it can't get to a move. We're going to be able to get the Sludge Bomb off. Unfortunately, this is one of those times where I wish I had Stone Edge. So I'm going to have to play this out a little bit careful here, as I have to make sure that I save the shield potentially for the Guzzlord. Now, since the opponent throws here, I know that I can live a move. If they have to go for Brave Bird in order to knock us out here, they're going to go for the Flame Charge. I'll go for 2 Stings and then the Sludge Bomb to bring this thing a little bit lower. Earthquake would be resisted here. We come in with a Guzzlord, give him the finishing blow with a Dragon Tail. It's going to be a good game. Well played. Good old Guzzy Wuzzy. All right, Walrein in the next game. This is a critically bad lead for this team, so I'm going to get straight into Drapion here, and the opponent hasn't switched out yet. They're going to go straight for Icicle Spear. I'm going to shield the first one just because I need to keep my Drapion healthy in order to eventually deal with Walrein, but the opponent decides to stay in even longer, and this means now that they may not have an answer in the back to Drapion, which is fine, because if they have to stay in against my Drapion with the Walrein, that means that it avoids being on the rest of this team, which I really have a problem with. Now, defense drop. The opponent decides they're going to throw here. I'm going to let this Icicle Spear go. At this point, the switch clock has become so misaligned that if I want to, I can just simply swap out if they do. So Aqua Tail is going to get the Walrein shieldless and low, and the opponent is forced to go for energy here before getting farmed down. I will go ahead and go for this farm down with a Guzzlord. Icicle Spear is going to do a lot of damage here, so I'm just going to go ahead and shield. I don't know what's in the back, but I just hope that the bulk of Clodsire, and there's a Wigglytuff. My day is ruined. Here comes Malamar. I'm hard countered. Oh my goodness, I am upset. Genuinely, this is the stuff that makes me mad at this game. Was like, doesn't matter how you do, but opponent has the Malamar. But here's the thing. They took, I think, an extra 3 turns or charm or so to make this switch. They go for the foul play. They need to make it to another one, but they can't make it to another one before we get to the Sludge Bomb. That gives me a chance here. If I can land a Sludge Bomb on the Wigglytuff, we might be able to take this game. We're going to go for it. Sludge Bomb on 7. Good timing every time because we don't want to give them any free anything, especially not Wigglytuff. I hate this Pokemon so much. I would love to wipe Wigglytuff off the face of the planet. My hatred for Wigglytuff has gone beyond Bastiodon, gone beyond Lantern even. It's just ridiculous. We don't need to worry about this because Guzzy Wuzzy gets to the Brutal Swing to get the knockout. Wiggly who? Never heard of him. Good game. Next game up, we're going to have Guzzy Wuzzy on the lead. I'm going to make this a thing now. Guzzy Wuzzy versus Moltres. Moltres is a very good matchup for Guzzlord here. The opponent staying in means they are also probably core broken. I'm telling y'all, this thing has core broken at least every other team I've played against with it, if not more. It's just such an awkward thing because nobody's expecting it anymore. Everybody's expecting, you know, Clodsire and Gastrodon and all these other things that are meta now, but nobody's talking about Guzzlord. That's why I think it's really strong right now. Opponent comes in with the Clodsire, which for me is a little bit awkward. I have to do one of two things, right? I have to basically either get this thing down into a range where my own Clodsire can one-shot it with an Earthquake, or I have to stay in with Guzzlord, which is actually what I decide to do here. I'm going to take a move. They're going to go for the Earthquake. That's going to leave me very low, but I'm going to try to go for another Brutal Swing. Maybe I should have swapped out. I have play with the Drapion into their Moltres. I'm going to come in with my Drapion. I'm going to look to go for an Aqua Tail right away, but they get to a move, unfortunately. I'm like, man, I don't want to do this, but I have to shield it up here. My Clodsire has enough bulk to really be able to do a lot. So I'm actually going to go for a huge overfarm here before they can get to another Stone Edge. Since they did throw, I can go for at least 5 or 6 more stings before they get to the move. And now they have 2 shields up. It's going to come down to what they have. They have an Azumarill. We're looking pretty okay here. We're going to have to see how this goes. But so far, I mean, as long as I don't take a Brave Bird from Moltres, we're doing pretty good. Opponent gets in a defense drop as well. I'm going to go for a catch after another 4 Poison Stings, because that would be them getting to bubble number 6 and throwing the Play Rough. So that was a very nice catch here on our part. Going to be able to go for a Sludge Bomb, get a shield off of the Moltres. My Drapion has so much energy that it's going to have a very fun time against whatever it gets brought up against. Now, the opponent going for a charge move, they cannot go for a Ancient Power. All they can do is go for Brave Bird. And I thought the Clodsire was down, but he's alive. Clodsire, you monster, hanging on by 1 HP, going for that Sludge Bomb. And I'm going to go immediately into my Drapion here. I need to land basically 3 moves here, and I need to be able to get rid of that shield that the opponent's still hanging on to. Crunch number 1, not getting the shield. I don't think I'm getting to another 2 crunches, so I'm going to go for an Aqua Tail here and try and get that bait. The opponent does shield, and we're able to get to the crunch right on the CMP tie before the opponent gets to their Ice Beam. Well played to the opponent. That came down to the wire. But we're going to be able to take the game. Well played. That goes to show you, even if you have a really good lead, like this one, Guzzy Wuzzy does enjoy seeing Typhlosion very much, that doesn't mean that the rest of the game is a cakewalk, because there's always that chance that the opponent just has something really, really strong in the back that you're going to have to deal with. So, but I'm going to shield up this. The opponent goes for the Blast Burn. I was half expecting them to go for a Thunder Punch, but they decide not to, and that costs them. I get a full farm down with Guzzlord, and we're just going to be able to start ripping this Annihilape with Brutal Swings. Now, Annihilape is just very problematic for this team, to be honest. But the thing we have to remember is that Annihilape, even though it is a fighting type, it'll still take damage because of its ghost typing from these Brutal Swings. The opponent's forced to shield. Are they going to shield again? Because if they don't, they're basically going to lose their Annihilape at this point. Opponent deciding to save the shield. I'm going to come in with my Clodsire, and the opponent has the Superior in the back. And Sludge Bomb Clodsire, buddy. Ooh, this boy means business. He's going to Sludge Bomb the Grass type, and that's pretty much it. The opponent doesn't really have anything they can do in this game, unfortunately. Guzzlord just leading to that huge farm down was just a very bad situation for the opponent here, and since they really didn't have 2 strong answers to Guzzlord, they couldn't swap out. Good game. Speaking of good, I'm telling, dude, this is all unbroken. This is all a straight 2 sets. I'm telling you, this thing was nuts. Okay, Guzzlord gets a Greninja lead, and then the opponent safe switches into the Galarian Slowbro. I actually recognize the name of this trainer, and they are running some serious spice, so huge props to them, because that is just awesome. I love to see off-meta picks like Galarian Slowbro. I genuinely hope that aside from this game, I hope that it was just destroying souls, because this thing looks like so much fun. Now, unfortunately, I also find out that the Galarian Slowbro wins CMP over Drapion. However, I'm aware that this is not enough for another Scald, so I'm going to go ahead and let this go. I took a little bit of unnecessary damage, unfortunately, but that's one of the powerful things of using Pokemon that are not very familiar for most people, is you get to take them by surprise with counts and things that you're not used to. Like, I'm not used to the Brutal Swing Scald counts with Poison Jet, I'm not going to lie. Opponent was able to take advantage of that, and it worked out for him very nicely. So we can just simply let this go here. We have even shields. Guzzlord is still locked on the Greninja. Clodsire on whatever's in the back, and the opponent now has their own Clodsire, but I make a critical error in this game and bring in my Clodsire behind a Poison Sting or 2 into the opponent's Clodsire. This is gonna get tricky, but my Guzzlord, thankfully, is still pretty healthy. I just have to remember about where I am on energy. I believe they're 1 or 2 ahead of me here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go straight for Earthquake. I'm not baiting at all. We can both live 1 Earthquake and shield the next, and they've already decided to shield. So now it's just a matter of me being able to land these Earthquakes. I also know that my switch timer is coming up pretty quickly. So I'm hoping to try and make a catch of this Earthquake onto the opponent. We're going to just go for it and go right until we're 1 shy of the Earthquake, because that would be the next spot I would expect the opponent to go for it, and they do. We swap in the Guzzlord to absorb the energy. It is the Earthquake, and now we can go for the Brutal Swing. They're going to go for a catch. Unfortunate, but I'm going to go ahead and just undercharge this, and the opponent lives with 1 HP, and they throw the energy, which is massive. That means that my Clodsire is now 1 away. We can get the Sting here and immediately throw the Earthquake, and the opponent had only gone for about 5 or so Poison Stings before swapping out to catch that move, so they get the Earthquake, and bam, taking them out with that Earthquake. Good game to the opponent. And we're picking up a 5-0 set to start. This is getting me back. I've been up and down the whole 2300 area. This team got me back up to nearly 2400. So this team's been very good. Now, Clodsire leads. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get into my Drapion, and I'm going to go for the Aqua Tail here on 7. They are now getting to the Earthquake, which is 8, and because I'm 1 behind them. So we're going to also be able to get an extra Poison Sting back. So we're actually now even on energy. But the opponent now comes in with a Primeape, and I stupidly, for some reason, decide to throw a Crunch here. I don't know why I do this. I'm not necessarily going to defend my actions here, but opponent basically goes for a move here. Could be close combat, could be Rage Fist, but it's close combat. Boom! Taken out. And Guzzlord's going to come in and get this farm down. The opponent threw right away at 5, so they shouldn't be able to get to another charge move. Unless it's Rage Fist, which doesn't really make a difference for me here at this point. And in comes the opponent's Clodsire. They're within range of 1 Earthquake knocking them out here, which is nice, but I feel like if they safe swapped in Primeape, or counter swapped in Primeape rather, there might be something else in the back that... Never mind, my team read was completely wrong on this one. I was kind of expecting to be like an Annihilape or something in the back, but opponent has the Talonflame. I'm going to go for 1 more Dragon Tail to try and get some damage in, and I don't know, man. 2 shields with this much energy deficit, I basically have to try to land the... I'm basically just going to have to try to land a move here, but the opponent goes for the Brave Bird right away, and I see a potential chance to fast move the opponent down and see if I can't get to 2 or 3 moves here. Sludge Bomb number 1's coming out. We're going to have to see if I can get this. I'm going to try to go for a Sludge Bombs and an Earthquake here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to, but the Sludge Bombs, or the Poison Stings doing literally 1 damage, might actually give me an opportunity to do this. So we're going to go ahead and try to make it. Going into the Guzzlord, we're going to catch the energy, and Guzzlord's going to potentially save us from failure here in this game. Opponent going for the Sludge Bomb. We're going to get for the Earthquake. Opponent wins on the CMP tie, though. I don't even know if a Sludge Bomb was enough here, but we came as close as we could. Unfortunate, but did our best. Good game to the opponent here. Well played. That's the one downside of having a high-ranked Clodsire, is you lose those CMP ties, which some of those are going to be important. Now, my opponent has a Goodra, which is fairly uncomfortable for this team. At least in a straight matchup. But now that we've gotten them down to about half HP with those Dragon Tails, we can throw the Brutal Swing. Their only move that we could do to us at this point is Aqua Tail, which we can cleanly live because it's resisted. The opponent's forced to shield a potential Dragon Claw, and they're not swapping out. We're going in with the Drapion here, going straight for this crunch. Is the opponent willing to double shield? No, they're not. So we're going to see what they come in with. The opponent is going to come in with a Feraligatr. That is a not good swap in on the Drapion. So they are very weak to Drapion here. Opponent lets this go as well. They're throwing energy here. If they decide not to swap here, I can farm down their Gator. And this is what I'm talking about when I said that sometimes Drapion just eats an entire team. The opponent comes in with an Azumarill. We have the Drapion. We have Clodsire. We are in a very commanding position here, especially because this is their final Pokemon, and if they get a defense drop just like that, they have no other way to reset it now. So they're basically stuck with the defense drops and the damage. They can't swap out to clear the debuff. They're forced to shield, and then once they shield, I'm going to come in with Clodsire, and they're going to concede knowing that the game is over. Well played to the opponent. Getting into the next game, Guzzy Wuzzy against Azumarill. We don't like this lead at all, so we're going to immediately pivot into the Drapion here. Opponent's going to go ahead and swap into their Annihilape here. Annihilape is, again, it's a very interesting thing against this team because we have a lot of damage that we can put out against it. And if the opponent goes for Rage Fist here, I can get to an Aqua Tail. So they have to go for close combat, which some of them actually do. But they go for Ice Punch instead. So having the Ice Punch on this actually helps us here because the opponent can't knock us out. It's probably a safe switch Annihilape. Try and draw out Flyers if I had to guess here. So we're going to come back in with Guzzlord. We're going to shield up one move, but they can't get to another move, which is really nice for us here. The Azumarill is still lurking in the back, so now we're going to be able to pivot back into the Clodsire. We have an extra shield. The opponent can either stay in to go for an Ice Beam, or they can swap here. Now, they've swapped in their Clodsire to try and catch that Sludge Bomb, but just like we were in the other game behind on energy, we're ahead on energy and shields, and this is a very easy win for us here. We can just go straight Earthquake. I could let a move go here if I want to, but I know that an Earthquake will do more than Azumarill's Ice Beam will. So I'm just going to go ahead and shield up what is most likely going to be an Earthquake. And at that point, we're basically just looking at a one game here. I could even get my Guzzlord in here to get to a Sludge Bomb. We're going to do a fancy little catch here and try and catch the energy here on our Guzzlord. Opponent going for that Earthquake and then immediately swapping back into the Azumarill, but they are afraid of the Sludge Bomb and do not want me to get it off here as they go for an Ice Beam, knocking out my Guzzy Wuzzy, poor guy. In comes my Clodsire, and Clodsire is going to be able to fire off 2 Sludge Bombs in very quick succession and still retain a shield because we're healthy enough to survive an Ice Beam from this range if they can get to one. And then at that point, we just Earthquake Clodsire, which is low enough, I believe, to be knocked out. Opponent does get to a move here, but it's okay. I can let it go. Again, Ice Beam actually does less than the Earthquake will, and that's... maybe it's... no, it's definitely... I was going to say maybe it's about the same, but no, it's definitely less. But we're going to take the game here. Opponent knows it. Well played. And we're going to get into the next game with Guzzy Wuzzy on a Golurk. Golurk is a very neutral matchup in general because it's really just fast moves. I would rather not throw here, to be honest, and my opponent may be trying to go for a Shadow Punch bait, but I'm going to shield just in case. I need to get rid of this Golurk, dude. Opponent's going to come in with a Charge-a-Bug, and I'm going to go for the Brutal Swings here. They went for 2 of their Volt Switches, and that means now I can get 1 more Brutal Swing in, and then I'm going to swap into Clodsire. They either shield this, or they give me a full farm down of their Charge-a-Bug. But I probably should have come in with this a lot sooner, to be honest, because there's really nothing that this Charge-a-Bug can do to my Clodsire, and I could have probably gotten a lot more energy had I not thrown the second Brutal Swing, and I could have saved it for the Golurk for later, which might be helpful. The opponent's going to come back in with that Golurk, but even though this is a very, very bad matchup for Clodsire in general, they're basically at a range where a Sludge Bomb could probably knock them out. So I'm going to just continue to go for moves here, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go for a Sludge Bomb on 2 here because I want to be able to get rid of this thing if I can, and that's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to swap out. I'm going to basically, I went for 2 to make sure that they weren't able to get to another move on me. And then we just come in with the Guzzlord and farm down. The opponent did throw the Shadow Punch, and we were able to sneak the move through, which is why I shielded it. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have... I don't know if I was shielded or not, but unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get to a move, and that's a Shadow Tentacruel. That thing is going to hurt. Clodsire is going to come in here, force the opponent to throw some of that energy they've got, and all we should have to do at this point is get to a crunch on Drapion, which we should be able to do before they get to the Scald here, because even if they overfarm by a little bit, it wasn't much. We're at the crunch, but apparently Tentacruel wins CMP. It doesn't. We actually got one turn lag here. Unfortunately, Niantic just, you know, not being able to fix their game and things not working the way they're supposed to, but we're able to land this crunch and take the game anyway, thankfully. Well played to the opponent. Love the Shadow Tentacruel Spice as well. Next game's up, we got Guzzlord on the lead versus a Clodsire yet again. I'm going to immediately pivot into my Drapion to start putting pressure on with these Aqua Tails, and I'm going to overfarm just in case they try to catch as well. I don't want to give them an opportunity to get too much of a head start on me here, as I've already got a little bit of an issue with the Clodsire in general. But the nice thing here is that these Aqua Tails are pretty much going to put this thing into a range where one Earthquake will KO. So it does help Clodsire for later, and it also puts Guzzlord in a position where it can also Dragon Tail and potentially farm... either farm with Dragon Tails or go for Brutal Swings if it needs to. Opponent's going to full send the Earthquake here, and then they are going to look to try to catch on a Mandibuzz. We do end up throwing the Aqua Tail anyway, but we're going to be able to now counter swap in our Guzzlord because the opponent was in that matchup for so long. The switch timer actually came up, and we're going to be able to get to the Sludge Bomb. Guzzlord does very, very well in this Mandibuzz matchup, resisting the Snarls. Aerial Ace being the best move that the Mandibuzz can throw here into the Guzzlord. We're going to be doing very well. We're just going to go for a bunch of extra energy here. I want to be able to pressure whatever comes in after this thing with energy, and we should be able to farm down here. I believe I could even tank 2 more Aerial Aces to boot, which is very nice. We'll have to see what the opponent has sitting in the back. Hopefully it won't be anything that we are going to be having a problem with. Opponent's going to go for the Aerial Ace, knocking out the Mandibuzz, and the opponent comes in with the Clodsire. They have to shield if they want to keep their Clodsire alive, and if they don't, well, good for us. That's going to be all right, I want to talk about this game because this particular game legitimately made me angry when I played it. Okay, y'all saw what just happened. Okay, we threw the Brutal Swing. The Clodsire is literally sitting there with his beady little eyes, and then there was that one little glitch that you see when somebody swaps out a Pokemon right after a charge move, where the health bar fills back up to a certain point or changes. But I don't get to see what swapped in here, which is the problem because I don't get to make an informed decision now about what I'm going to do next. Because if I had known the Annihilape had swapped in, I would have either gone for the Brutal Swing right away, or I would have come in with my Clodsire right away. I would have done something different here. But because I wasn't able to see the Annihilape when it came in, they get the counter down of my Guzzlord, and now I'm basically just sitting here against the 2-shield Shadow Annihilape, and yeah, this is bad. So we're going to go for the Aqua Tail. I'm hoping to get an early shield off of this thing. I do know that the opponent doesn't really look likely to close combat yet, and I'm going to try to pivot into my Clodsire before they can. Opponent probably going to go for the Rage Fist here. I'm going to have to save the shield for my Clodsire. They are going to go for the Rage Fist. It's just enough to get the knockout, and those the counters are going to start to really add up here with these Rage Fist buffs as well. The boost to Rage Fist, the boost to attack, it's so we're gonna over farm here. Thinking about baiting, but I'm like, man, if I just need them to not call this bait, but they're gonna shield it, and they're within range of another Earthquake here. I still have a shield, and because the pacing to Rage Fist is so poor with counter after its nerf, I just need to make sure they can't catch a move here, and so they do. And look at this. Well, here's the next thing, okay? They're on 1 HP. You can clearly see there is 1 HP on this Clodsire. So I'm thinking, okay, they get the charge move off. They go down to the Poison Sting as long as this isn't an Earthquake, which it wasn't. And I live with 1 HP. So because I can't see the opponent and I'm 1 counter away from being knocked out, my decision here is to tap the Earthquake. But the Clodsire is alive with 1 HP and not going to lose me the game. I know, and at this point I know it. It's just something frustrating about this game that I know will probably never get fixed, but I wish it would, is the lack of seeing the information of your opponent's Pokemon. Okay. And that's going to do it for me for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments what team you're going to be running in the Great League, and we'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.